Hey there, Spider. Long time no see. Miss me?
Felicia.
Catch me if you can.
Not only was Spider-Man PS4's DLC a fantastic way to expand on the narrative of the main game, but it also featured its fair share of wonderful story moments as well. And even though the city that never sleeps may have its ups and downs, you can't deny that it is one heck of a wonderful way to fully flesh out this game's universe. However, while I did manage to have an outstanding time playing through each individual chapter of Spider-Man PS4's DLC, trying to choose down exactly 5 great moments within it was actually a really challenging task. So even though I did struggle with my decisions, I still believe I picked the 5 best moments within Spider-Man PS4's City That Never Sleeps DLC. And with all that said, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very exciting and very intriguing Spider-Man PS4 related video. So in case you missed it, Insomniac Games did host a live stream on their Twitch channel, flat out stating that the Silver Lining chapter of the City That Never Sleeps pack is indeed their very last piece of DLC that they plan to release. So even though it may not be officially confirmed that we might potentially receive even more free suits within Spider-Man PS4, I do think it is safe to say that the majority of the DLC is finally done with the game. And seeing how it's been over 6 months since the very first release of Spider-Man PS4's DLC chapters with the heist, I thought it'd be fun if we went over the biggest highlights of each chapter within this video. And of course, I will be doing the exact opposite of this with another video coming out soon, going over the top 5 worst moments of Spider-Man PS4's DLC, because trust me, there are quite a few within the entirety of the pack. So if there's a story moment that I put on my list that you personally disagree with, just know that that is my own unique opinion about how the story subject was conveyed within Spider-Man PS4's DLC. And to a shocking surprise, even to myself, no, there will not be any honorable mentions within either of these DLC story moment lists. And the reason why that is primarily relates to the fact that each of the main narrative story aspects of all the DLC chapters only range to about approximately 1 full hour of gameplay and overall cutscenes. And even though there are some side missions that will be featured on both of these lists, I don't think that there was enough overall content to include as an honorable mention. That's not to say that the extra content that we received was bad, but I personally think that it added up to exactly 5 best and 5 worst moments within the overall DLC of Spider-Man PS4. And with all that out of the way, let's finally begin with my personal top 5 pick of one of the best story moments within Spider-Man PS4's DLC, and that is obviously the awesome reference to pizza time.
Oh, I love you. But now, I must destroy you.
Now, as you would expect, the bottom pick of the best moment list would obviously begin with a much smaller moment within the entirety of the City That Never Sleeps story. Throughout the main game, we did get a lot of references to the obviously most famous pizza time quote from Spider-Man 2, within some really cool references to other NYC pizza joints in Marvel's New York. Initially, it began with one of the other best moments of the main story with Spider-Man PS4's narrative when Peter was evicted from his apartment. And while Peter was swinging around New York City to find his Spidey flash drive, he did end up calling the garbage man Eddie to actually talk about where he could find it within the garbage trucks that are located throughout the city.
Hey, it's a long shot, but sometimes the guys stop for pizza before they drop off.
Really? I'll check out the pizza shops. Any idea which one?
One of the mom and pop joints, I think.
Jerry's?
No, that's uptown.
I mean original Jerry's.
Oh, right. No, started with an L, I think.
Larry's?
That's on the east side.
Leo's.
Leo's, yeah. That might be it. Man, I love Leo's.
I'll pick you up a pie. I owe you one.
No worries. Hope you find what you're looking for.
Thanks, Eddie.
And because of this, we did hear some witty back and forth commentary between Peter and Eddie talking about the numerous pizza joints that are located throughout New York City and one that possibly could have his stuff in. But sadly, after all of Spidey's tiresome work, the only reward he got after finding his equipment in a garbage dump is actually almost getting beaten up by a bunch of thugs. Never to fear though, because during the midpoint of the heist storyline, we did see Peter call up another friend who apparently also has the name of Eddie and make him a Spidey Deluxe double pepperoni pizza pie. Now, even though I don't don't know for sure if Spidey is going to be paying for those pizzas, I still fully appreciate the small and awesome reference that Insomniac inquired within this awesome pizza reference. Plus, hearing Yuri Lowenthal act as Spider-Man talking about pizza in the game is just a flat-out treasure.
Son of a...
Sorry.
What are you doing here? And why do you smell like pizza?
Because I just ate pizza?
Well, while you were out enjoying lunch, I was gathering evidence and trying to find a missing child.
I ate as fast as I could.
I've got stuff to follow up on. I'll call you later.
Oh. Note to self. No upside downies after double pepperoni. Thanks.
Now moving on to the number 4 spot on the list relates to a moment that I was really hoping would happen within the finale of Spider-Man PS4's DLC, and sure enough, Insomniac didn't disappoint in the slightest. And of course, I'm talking about the awesome teaser that Insomniac inputted within the game relating to the origin of Yuri Watanabe becoming the vigilante known as the Wraith. Now, if you want to know everything there is to know about the Wraith and her character in the comics, I did do a video a while back talking about her and possibly saying how Insomniac could implement her within Spider-Man PS4. And even though we never actually got to see the Wraith in action within Spider-Man PS4's main story, I was absolutely on the edge of my seat knowing exactly where Insomniac was going with Yuri's character in the City That Never Sleeps pack. If you personally invested time within the Hammerhead bases in the second chapter of the DLC with Turf Wars, you would know that there is a lot of exposition within Yuri Watanabe's past along with the Maggia crime family. Not only was Yuri's old man a crooked cop, but she's made it her life goal since day one joining the Force to take down the Maggia and everything they stand for. Especially when Hammerhead and his own crime family re-emerged from the New York City underbelly, it really took a toll on Yuri after having her entire police force get taken down by him and his men. And after all of this major buildup, especially with Yuri re-experiencing a very traumatic experience, it really shows how impactful everything was to her when she did take out a Maggia informant. And I gotta say, after seeing that thug wrapped up with yellow caution tape and purple wires, I can't wait to see what type of design Insomniac is going to make for Wraith in the potential sequel.
This guy killed all these people. But does that mean he deserved to die? Yuri!
I know what you're gonna say, but just hear me out. The system works most of the time, but there are times when it doesn't. And to me, that's unacceptable. Some people put their trust in fate, or karma, or whatever. But I can only trust me.
You can't kill people, Yuri!
Apparently I can. And you know what? It felt good.
You need to turn yourself in.
For what? I just dispensed justice. True justice. And I restored a little bit of balance to the world.
You're my friend, Yuri. I don't want to come after you.
You do what you have to do, and I'll do what I have to do. Goodbye, Spider-Man.
Yuri! What am I gonna do? This all makes sense now. What Yuri did to Hammerhead. She's been struggling with this for a while. She's always held in her emotions. That must take a toll on her. But she's also the most tenacious and stubborn person I know. This was a bad guy for sure, but killing him? That's too much.
Now, as we move on to number 3 on the list, we are once again going into a much smaller moment that happens within the overall story arc of Spider-Man PS4's DLC, but is still a moment that is worth talking about and one that is really awesome if you do happen to glitch out the game. Not only that, but after seeing this feature in action within the DLC, I am flat out convinced that Insomniac are using this as a prototype to include within the sequel as a full gameplay mechanic. And of course, I'm talking about none other than the section in the Silver Lining DLC where you can walk around the city streets and even swing in the New York City skyline as Peter Parker.
Too many people around. I'm not gonna be able to get close looking like this. Maybe if I ditch the suit. There. Now I'm just your average New Yorker.
Being able to play as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Miles Morales all in one game was a real treat to experience. But given how this was truly the first ever AAA next-generation Spider-Man game to ever be made on the future platforms, I was really hoping for a much more immersive experience with Peter Parker and Spider-Man at the same time. And while I do thoroughly appreciate all the sections where we got to actually play as Peter Parker, I was a full-on advocate of open-world Peter Parker gameplay ever since the game's announcement all the way back at E3 2017. 2016. And lo and behold, Insomniac actually delivered within this feature in the third installment of the City That Never Sleeps DLC with Silver Lining. Not only was it awesome to see John Bubniak get more screen time within Spider-Man PS4's DLC, but it was awesome actually walking around the open streets as Peter Parker for the first time in the game. Insomniac also tried to spice things up within Peter Parker's gameplay by having an extra feature of trying to blend in with the New York City crowd and even try and wall crawl and web zip up and across buildings. Plus, as I said earlier, if you did manage to mod the game, you could actually try and fully web swing around New York City with a Peter Parker skin. And even though the ESU suit is as close as we can get to open world Peter Parker free roam gameplay that you can also fight bad guys with, I do wish instead of the undie suit, they actually put in a Peter Parker suit instead. Even though it wouldn't make sense and would totally expose Peter's identity if he were to fight bad guys and swing around just as a normal guy, the other Spider-Man games in the past like Spider-Man 3 and Ultimate Spider-Man did do this with Peter Parker as a skin. So as I said previously, hopefully this is a proof of concept as to what Insomniac Games has in store for the sequel of Spider-Man PS4 with full-on open world Peter Parker gameplay. Because I know for a fact that being able to walk into a random New York City alley as Peter Parker and then jump back on screen as Spider-Man would be an awesome feature to see be played out.
If I can get Tony's laptop, it could lead me to Hammerhead.
Thanks. Oh, wait.
Stimulating conversation, guys, but I've heard enough.
Now, as we draw closer to the ending of this list, we do have the second best moment within Spider-Man PS4's DLC, and that has to go to my main man, Miles Morales. Miles was not only an absolute joy to see his interactions unwind with Peter Parker and Mary Jane within the game's main story, but it was also amazing to play as him in certain sections as well. And especially given with what happens at the end of the game's main narrative, Miles is bitten by one of the spiders in Norman's secret laboratory in his penthouse, and now has similar spider powers to that of Peter and will then go under Peter's tutelage in this game's universe. And while that was set up as a wonderful post-credit scene at the end of Spider-Man PS4's story, it was actually expanded upon within the entirety of the City That Never Sleeps pack. Throughout each individual chapter, we do receive approximately 3 phone calls from Miles talking to Peter about him gaining and experiencing his spider powers and talking about how he wants to get out in the field. And while this originally may have just seemed like some really funny commentary with Miles trying to hone his powers and very excited to be a hero just like Peter is, it did pay off at the very end of Silver Lining with an awesome post-credit tease launching to the next game. And seeing how much of an impact Miles Morales had within his own movie of Into the Spider-Verse, it really shows that Insomniac really needs to step up their game with how they portray Miles as Spider-Man in the next game. But I can safely say that I thoroughly enjoyed Miles Morales' character within Spider-Man PS4's main story and the extra DLC, and I can't wait to see how he'll be as Spider-Man in the next game.
Ready?
I think the web shooters are a little tight.
Get used to it. Just try to keep up.
And now everyone, the moment you've all been waiting for, the #1 best moment throughout the entirety of Spider-Man PS4's DLC has to go to the one and only Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat.
Security wall's intact and bulletproof. Nobody's getting near the Maria anytime soon.
Mission accomplished then?
I hope so. Yeah, I am gonna have to call you right back.
Why? What's going on?
You look good.
Been working out?
Oh. I mean, you know, a little.
So,
You swinging solo now? Or back with your ex?
That's a lot of questions.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I hear that's bad for cats.
If you guys know me, Black Cat is one of my most favorite characters within Spider-Man comic lore, not just because of her amazing looks, but mainly because of the complex relationship she has with both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Not only has Felicia experienced multiple phases when dealing with Spider-Man, such as a villain, anti-hero, or sometimes flat-out sidekick of Spidey, but she also has grown with her relationship from just loving Spider-Man to actually loving Peter as well. And in my personal opinion, even though Mary Jane and or Gwen Stacy are the main true loves that Peter Parker has in his life, he really did have something truly special with Black Cat overall. And even though Mary Jane is extremely supportive of Peter's spider side in both the comics and the game, I do think the person who understands this on a much more personal level is Felicia Hardy as Black Cat. And in Spider-Man PS4's case, I definitely think Insomniac knocked it out of the park with how they portrayed Felicia Hardy within this game's universe. Even though it originally appeared that Felicia only used Peter to get what she wanted in the Heist DLC, it came to a full conclusion in Silver Lining where she did come back to help Peter fight Hammerhead. Not to mention that we were introduced within this game's universe of Felicia in the main game itself with her phone calls and the Black Cat stakeout missions. And as an extra bonus, after completing all of the Black Cat stakeouts, she was kind enough to make Peter his own unique Spidey suit. But it's truly within the Heist DLC where Felicia Hardy gets to shine the most as her own individual character and as a past love interest for Peter Parker and his life. And for me personally, I was extremely hooked on the possible aspect that Peter and Felicia could have had a child together within this universe. But the entirety of this portrayal of Black Cat wouldn't have been possible without the amazing motion capture talents of Amy Johnston as well as the amazing voice actress of Erica Limbeck. Just like Yuri Lowenthal is beyond passionate about playing Spider-Man within this game, the same thing goes to Erica Limbeck playing Black Cat within Spider-Man PS4's universe. While Amy was mainly responsible for all the amazing flexible gymnastics that we see Black Cat do in the DLC itself, the main voice acting talent does come from Erica Limbeck's overall passion for Felicia and Black Cat. While we do experience a majorly flirtatious Black Cat interacting with Spider-Man, we do also get some very emotional and impactful moments between her past and Peter's.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, I can't say anything about, to the plot, but I think that Felicia Hardy has been somebody who has done her damnedest to be unencumbered by feelings and emotions, and Spider-Man is sort of the only person, or Peter Parker is sort of the only person who's ever bucked that system for her. So, and that's why it makes their dynamic so interesting, and I love it. And I love that you feel it just even in that teaser. Yeah.
I wish I had thought of that.
Right. And if I did have to choose a specific moment within the Heist DLC as to which part I love the most between Spider-Man and Black Cat, it would obviously go to the amazing chase between the two characters. Not only do we get to experience some really cool added parkour sequences while Spider-Man is chasing after Black Cat on ground level, but it then goes into a really awesome chase within the New York City subway. And even though it might feel a bit clunky at first to swing in such a closed-off environment, the more that you swing inside of it, the more that you get used to it and how you can maneuver around the tunnels. However, the best part about this chase is near the end of it, where this game had its own staple Black Cat chase similar to that of how it handled it within Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Web of Shadows. So being able to fully chase after Black Cat within Spider-Man PS4 was just a dream come true for me as a hardcore Spider-Man fan and obviously as a hardcore Black Cat fan. And while there were other story elements within Spider-Man PS4's DLC that did do justice to the overall narrative, the best moment of its entirety has to go to the Black Cat sequences within the Heist. Not to mention that her own standalone theme, directly crafted by the game's main composer of John Paisano, is absolutely glorious. And furthermore, the chemistry that Erica Limbeck and Yuri Lowenthal share throughout the entirety of Spider-Man PS4 is just a true treat to experience. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your personal top 5 picks for the best DLC story moments within Spider-Man PS4, and what did you think of my own personal list that I made in this video? To me, there were some really great moments between Spider-Man and Silver Sable within Silver Lining, but I do think that the overall Black Cat sequences were a true highlight of the first chapter of The City That Never Sleeps. And even though I highly doubt that Black Cat, Hammerhead, or Silver Sable will return within the potential sequel of Spider-Man PS4, it would be nice if we got some references to them when the time comes. And of course, everyone, make sure to stay tuned later on for another video that I have planned for the top 5 worst DLC story moments within Spider-Man PS4's City That Never Sleeps pack. Until then, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and peace out.
Wow. And they still haven't found a body?
No.
Do you think she survived?
I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, but...
So, how's it feel to not be a dad? No, I'm serious.
Honestly, I'm kind of relieved. Yeah, I've got a lot going on, you know.
Yeah, you do. But I think you're gonna be an amazing dad someday. At the right time.
with the right person.